Katie Price was once reportedly worth around £40 million. Just think about that for a second. £40 million. She had best-selling books, television shows, modeling contracts, endorsements, properties, magazine deals, and one of the most recognizable celebrity brands in Britain. And yet, in 2019, Katie Price was declared bankrupt. Then, incredibly, it happened again. In 2024, she was declared bankrupt for a second time, this time over an unpaid tax bill of more than £760,000. So where on earth did all that money go? Because when you actually start looking into Katie's finances, the answer isn't quite what you might expect, and I think one particular mistake explains far more about what happened than the endless stories about cosmetic surgery and extravagant purchases. We'll get to that, because it completely changes the way I look at Katie's financial downfall. But first, if you enjoy getting beyond the headlines and looking at what's really going on in these celebrity stories, subscribe to the channel. It really does help us, and we've got plenty more coming. Now, before we go any further, there's something important to clear up. When you hear that Katie Price was once worth £40 million, that doesn't mean there was necessarily £40 million sitting in Katie's bank account. Celebrity net worth figures are notoriously difficult to verify, but there's absolutely no question that Katie was making serious money. At the height of her fame, she was everywhere. And I think people sometimes forget just how enormous the Katie Price business actually became. She wasn't simply earning money from glamour modeling. There were reality shows, including the programs she made with Peter Andre. There were books, autobiographies, novels, children's books, television appearances, endorsements, modeling, perfume, clothing, and countless magazine deals. For a period, Katie Price wasn't just a celebrity. She was practically an industry. And that's where I think the seeds of the problem were planted. Because when someone starts earning extraordinary amounts of money, they can also start constructing an extraordinarily expensive life. And Katie certainly did that. There were large properties, cars, horses and other animals, staff, travel, 5 children, beauty treatments, cosmetic procedures, and all the other costs that come with maintaining the lifestyle of a major celebrity. Various newspapers have published eye-watering estimates of Katie's spending over the years. We obviously can't know exactly how accurate every one of those figures is, but the overall picture is pretty difficult to miss. This was an expensive life to maintain. And there's one part of that life which eventually came to represent Katie's financial problems more than almost anything else. The Mucky Mansion. Katie bought the large West Sussex property for around £1.3 million. On paper, it sounded like the ultimate celebrity home. But over the years, viewers watched the property become almost a character in Katie's story itself. There were renovations, problems with the house, and eventually an entire television program about trying to transform it. And by 2024, Katie had left. For me, that house almost perfectly represents what happened. Something that began as a symbol of enormous success eventually became associated with financial problems and upheaval. But here's where I think the usual explanation for Katie losing her fortune gets far too simplistic. Cosmetic surgery. Whenever Katie's finances are discussed, somebody inevitably says, well, look how much she spent on surgery. And yes, Katie has been extraordinarily open about undergoing numerous procedures. Breast surgeries, facelifts, liposuction, and various other treatments have all been part of her very public transformation over the years. Some reports have estimated that she has spent well into 6 figures on cosmetic work. That's obviously an enormous amount of money. But let's use some common sense here. Even if those estimates are accurate, spending £100,000 or £200,000 on surgery does not explain what happened to a fortune supposedly measured in tens of millions. It makes a dramatic headline. It doesn't solve the mystery. And neither does pointing at one expensive car, one holiday, or one house. I think the real answer is much less dramatic and much more revealing. Katie's problem appears to have been the gap between the life she had built and the amount of money she could reliably continue earning. Think about Katie during those extraordinary Jordan and Peter Andre years. The money must have seemed almost endless. Every magazine wanted her. Television companies wanted her. Publishers wanted her. Brands wanted her. The public wanted to know what she was doing next. But celebrity doesn't work like a normal salary. Nobody guarantees that you'll earn the same amount next year, and certainly not 10 years later. Your television show gets canceled. Magazine sales decline. Another celebrity becomes the new obsession. Advertising changes. Social media changes the entire industry. Your personal circumstances change. But there's a problem. The house doesn't suddenly become cheaper. The staff don't suddenly cost less. The horses don't stop needing to be looked after. The cars still need paying for. The bills still arrive. And the lifestyle that was perfectly affordable when you're earning millions can become crushing when you're not. That, for me, is the key to understanding this whole story. Katie appears to have built the lifestyle of somebody earning peak Katie Price money. But peak Katie Price money wasn't guaranteed forever. Then add another ingredient: chaos. Katie's adult life has involved an extraordinary amount of personal upheaval. Her marriage to Peter Andre ended. She married Alex Reed. That ended. She married Kieran Hayler. That relationship collapsed too. There have been other engagements and relationships, changes of home, family difficulties, and countless public controversies. I'm not suggesting that any particular relationship caused Katie's bankruptcy. That would be ridiculous. But instability can be expensive. Changing households is expensive. Legal and professional costs can be expensive. Running businesses is expensive. And when all of that is happening alongside an already enormous lifestyle, the numbers can begin moving in the wrong direction very quickly. And we know that by 2018, Katie's financial difficulties were serious. She entered into an individual voluntary arrangement, essentially an agreement designed to help repay creditors and avoid bankruptcy. But it didn't solve the problem. In November 2019, Katie Price was declared bankrupt. Now stop there for a moment. Imagine going from being one of Britain's most successful celebrity brands to bankruptcy. You might assume that would be the point where everything changed. But this story wasn't over. Court proceedings later revealed details of payments Katie had agreed to make towards her debts. One previous arrangement involved monthly payments of £12,500 for 3 years, plus a lump sum, £12,500 every month. That gives you some idea of the scale we're dealing with here. And then came another enormous problem: HMRC. In March 2024, Katie Price was declared bankrupt for a second time. The amount owed to HMRC was £761,994.05, relating to tax liabilities including income tax and VAT, together with surcharges and interest. More than £750,000. And this is where the story becomes particularly extraordinary. Because Katie hadn't completely lost her ability to earn money. Far from it. She had income coming from platforms including OnlyFans and social media. But following court proceedings, she was ordered to hand over 40% of certain monthly earnings to the trustee dealing with her bankruptcy. Think about the irony of that. After everything that's happened, Katie Price can still make money from being Katie Price. That ability hasn't completely disappeared. She's remained famous for decades. People still click, people still watch, people still talk about her. So perhaps we've been asking the wrong question all along. Maybe the mystery isn't, how did Katie Price stop making money? Maybe it's, why couldn't Katie Price keep it? Because I don't think there's evidence of one gigantic moment when £40 million suddenly disappeared. There's no single purchase we can point at. No £20 million yacht, no one catastrophic investment that explains everything. Instead, what we appear to have is something far more ordinary happening on a completely extraordinary scale. Years of very high expenditure, expensive properties, a large household, children and animals, staff, travel, cosmetic treatments, business and professional costs, personal upheaval, debt, tax liabilities, and crucially, an income that was no longer necessarily operating at the extraordinary level it had during Katie's peak years. That's why I don't particularly buy the simplistic argument that Katie Price blew £40 million. We don't even know that she personally possessed £40 million in the first place. But she undoubtedly built an enormously valuable brand and earned extraordinary amounts of money. And somehow, despite all of that success, she ended up bankrupt twice. For me, the biggest mistake wasn't the surgery. It wasn't the pink cars. And it wasn't even the Mucky Mansion. It was something much simpler. Katie Price appears to have built a lifestyle around the assumption that Katie Price would always be able to earn like Katie Price. And celebrity simply doesn't give you that guarantee. That's the really fascinating thing about this story. Because even now, after bankruptcies, controversies, and countless predictions that her career is finished, Katie still hasn't disappeared. She's still earning, she's still generating headlines, and she's still finding ways to monetize the fact that millions of people know exactly who she is. So perhaps the final chapter hasn't actually been written. Could Katie Price rebuild her finances again? Possibly. But earning another fortune and actually keeping another fortune are two completely different things. I'd really like to know what you think. Was Katie's downfall simply years of living beyond her means? Or do you think there's much more to the story than that? Let me know in the comments. And if you've enjoyed this deeper look at what really happened to Katie Price's fortune, subscribe to the channel, because we'll be digging into plenty more stories just like this.